Hey y'all, this is All of Destiny, and let's get right into the full wig video. So I'm starting off using this frontal that I've already bleached the knots on. If you want to see a separate video on that, then definitely let me know and I got y'all covered, okay? I will also leave all of the information below as far as the bundles that I'm using, the frontal, the cap that I chose to use, all of that good stuff, okay? I ended up losing the footage for how I positioned the frontal, but if you look before I rotate the camera, then you'll see that I have the frontal kind of extended beyond the cap. And the reason for that is because you don't you don't want to sew the frontal exactly where the cap starts, because when you get ready to adjust it, by it being a frontal, you won't be able to move it. So it's kind of different from an actual closure. It'll look funny when you do it, because I watched some videos and I was like, what, she want me to put it where? So you want to position the frontal in front of the cap. That way when you sew it down, you'll be able to adjust it, move it around, all those different things. So yeah, the way that I'm sewing this thing down, I like to go through the cap, underneath the frontal, and then the way I position the thread goes behind the needle, and so it's like I'm knotting it the entire time. I don't know fancy stitching terms, so I can't even tell you what that's called, but you can definitely pause it and kind of look at the way that I'm sewing this down. And the way that I chose to sew down the frontal, I did just sew all the way from one end all the way across to the other side. And when I get to any pieces on the cap where there's like that extra thread for the elasticity, I make sure that I go over that part instead of going through that part on the cap, if that makes sense, because you want to still be able to stretch the cap. And so I just pretty much keep sewing and sewing and sewing all the way until I get to the other end of the frontal. I did choose to just kind of pin it down, that way I don't have to actually pull the frontal tight, hold it, and actually sew. It's already pinned down, the way I can just keep sewing and sewing and sewing until I get to the end. And now finally frontal is done. Okay, so now that we got the frontal on, we're going to go ahead and move to the 22-inch bundle. Whatever bundle is your longest, that's the bundle that will go in the back. So just quickly showing you all what that looks like. And the way that I'm going to actually sew this down, I'm going to go I guess kind of like ear to ear, but not really. It's like I'm attaching the bundle to the frontal, and the reason for that is because I want to make sure that the actual 22 inches is kind of like on the sides where the ears are, as well as in the back. Like I don't want just the 22 directly in the back, but it's not on the sides and it looks kind of funky, you know. So each time I get to the side where the frontal is, the bundle will be connected to that, and you'll see what I mean as we begin. So I actually am going to double up the 22-inch bundles. I'm going to use 2 of them, and so both of them will be doubled up, but I won't double up the 20-inch bundle because I want it to be more flat at the top of the head. And since this is the back, you can just go ahead and just double it up, or we're going to go ahead and double it up. My bad, I'm telling y'all what to do, sorry. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and double that up, and I actually go through the actual, I go through the weft when I get to each side, but as I'm sewing all the way across, then I just kind of go underneath the bundle, and I kind of pull down that top track to make sure that I'm going through both of the tracks, since I'm trying to double them up. And I'm doing that same technique to where I'm positioning the thread to where I can go underneath the bundle, both of the bundles, and then I go under the thread as well, and it's kind of like I'm knotting it the entire time. And since I'm getting to that elastic part again, I'm kind of skipping over that. I'm not sewing on top of it, I'm just going over it, that way I'm not sewing through it, and then I lose the elasticity as far as adjusting the cap. So once I get back to the other end of the frontal, I'm going to make sure that I go through under both of the tracks. I go under the cap, and then I also connect that to the frontal. That way everything is kind of connected together. Since it's one wig, we want it all to be seamless together. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, and I'm actually going to go through the weft. I go through the weft every time I get to the other side, and by doing that, I'm going to make sure that it's sticking down, like not sticking down, it's laying down really flat so that it's not sticking out. And once I kind of sew that down really flat, I just flip it over. The tracks are kind of on top of each other in the back, like it's not that much space between them. I'll start spacing it out more so when I get to the front, but I repeat that same thing all the way to the other side, fold it over, sew it down so that it's flat, and I finished that for both of the 22-inch bundles. And now we're going to move on to the 20-inch bundle, which is the one that I will not be doubling, but this one will just be sewn regular, just one track. Now I also did forget to mention, as I began to run out of the thread, I go ahead and I go through the weft, and then that way I can go ahead and tie everything down And each time you see that I'm making a knot 3 times. And what I'm doing with the scissors, just in case it's moving too fast, after I tie it down, I'm cutting off that excess thread, because when you're wearing your wig, you don't want that to be seen. Trust me, like even if it's the smallest bit, you can see that. So I knot it up 3 times, and then I go in and get as close as I can to the knot, and I snip off the excess thread. As I get closer to the pin, I just pretty much take it out, and then I pull the track tight to make sure that it's going to lay flat, and then I just pin it down closer towards the frontal. That way I don't have to hold the track as I'm sewing it down. And they do have the actual T-pins that you can use for this. I don't have those, so this worked for me. I guess if it works, it's not incorrect. No, but you can get the T-pins if you want. I just don't have those, so I didn't use them. And when I get to the end again, I'm going to go through the weft. I'm going to go under the cap. I'm going through the frontal. I'm going to tie my knot about 3 times and pretty much secure it. And that makes sure that each of the ends are kind of sealed down. That way the track won't come down as you're brushing in the hair, combing it through, all of those things. So at this point, I still am flipping over the track because I hadn't really decided that I wanted to start cutting it yet. And so what I'm doing to lay it flat, I go through the weft as close as I can to where it's actually flipped over it. That way it will lay really flat. And I also go through the frontal again about 2 times, and then I proceed to kind of extending out along the track. And each time that I do reach the end of the frontal, I'm kind of going up. Like the space is not really like a finger in between, but if you look now where the what's a T-pin? If you look now where the little pin is, you can kind of see about how far up I went, because believe it or not, we're still not at the top of the head, and so it doesn't have to be that much space yet. The spacing just depends on how thick you really want it to be and how full you want it to be, so it's not really that much space, but I am kind of moving up moving up each time. I can't take myself seriously on this voiceover right now, but I am moving up each time. That way we can actually get to the top, you know, towards the frontal. This video is like too long, so all of my mistakes, they're going to be in here. Like, there is no redo on this voiceover today. So once I get to the end, I'm going to go ahead and cut. And make sure that you don't cut to where you can't tie. Give yourself enough thread to where you can actually tie it, and then you can cut off the excess. Okay, so we made it to the other side again. I continue to keep explaining the same thing because I just want to make sure that I've gotten that point across so that it makes sense. So what I do, I position the track as close to the frontal as I can, and then I actually go through the weft. I go under the cap as well as through the frontal. That way everything is connected, and I kind of knot it about 3 times before I proceed to just sewing across. That way the ends don't come down, which will eventually cause the entire track to come down. So this is definitely a tedious process, but for those of you that like to see things all the way through, I just chose to speed this up instead of kind of cutting it, you know, like starting all the way at the bottom part and then the next clip I'm like halfway done. I didn't want to do that, so yeah, I just chose to speed it up instead. I hope you all enjoying this video. This is actually my first frontal wig, so yeah, I would love to know what you all think about how I've done, even though we're not done yet. So anyway, made it to the end. Again, I'm going through the weft each time I get to the end. That way I know that it's secure. Okay, and then I knot it about 3 times, cut off the excess thread, and then I'm at this point proceeding to cut off, cut the track instead of folding it over, because I don't want it to be too bulky towards the front of the hair. If you don't want to cut your tracks, just continue to fold them over. Sometimes the thread can get a little tangled. I just kind of pull at that, and then I just keep going, girl. Just keep sewing. Also, at this point, I am just kind of holding the track instead of pinning it down because it's not like a long distance. So I can pretty much just hold it and just keep going like that. And again, every time I get to the end, I'm not just stopping. I'm like going under, or not under. I'm going through the weft, up under the cap, and underneath the frontal so that everything is connected. And on this part, I did go back a little bit. Like after I went under the frontal, the cap, through the weft, all of that, I went back just once and then I tied it. I don't know why I did that. I just did. But yeah, and then I just cut the track again, proceeding with that same process, and just keep going back and forth, back and forth. And the way that I secure the ends, like I said, after I go through the weft, underneath the cap, and through the frontal. I kind of just wrap it around like 1, 2, 3. Then I pull it through. That way it's already knotted from the beginning, because you don't want the sides to start sticking out. That means that your track about to come down. You know, like you don't want to come. Okay, Destiny, quit playing. You don't want it to come down, though, girl. Like, secure it, okay? Make it lay, make it slay. Wig on fleek. Everything on fleek. Okay. What is she, like, she just be wasting voiceover time. What is she talking about? Kim. Okay, so at this point I was like super excited because I was just sewing and sewing. I'm like, girl, we not about to finish this thing. Like, it's not gonna happen. So at this point I was debating. I'm like, do we have 3 more rows left or 2? But all of that is definitely dependent upon you. I think we're gonna make this 2 more rows. That way it's not like too bulky, because it's at the top of your head. So you want that to lay flat. Like, you don't want a little hump sticking up in the crown of your head. So we're just gonna make that 2. But definitely if you choose to, then you can choose to make that 3. But this is going to be like the second to last row that we're sewing right now. And the reason for that, like I said, is just because you want it to lay flat. And not even that though, the frontal is about 4 inches. Like, that's a lot of frontal that you're going to brush back over that hair. And you can also you can also see now that I'm beginning to space it out even more. So yeah, if you choose to, then you could have made that 2, but for the purpose of making sure that it lays really flat and you got all that frontal in the front that's going to get brushed over that anyway, it's just going to blend, girl, for the better good of laying and slaying this wig. Okay, like, just keep sewing. So the most important part while I'm playing acting silly, on this last track right here, I'm making sure that I'm still going underneath the cap, and I'm also beginning to connect to the frontal, because as I said, this is one wig. When you adjust the frontal, you want the bundles to be like, everything needs to be adjusted. You don't want to be adjusting the frontal but it's not connected to the bundles, and so it's like, you know, it's not moving the whole wig. So make sure. She's so ratchet allofdestiny. She just keeps coming in. Like, I need her to not be in this voiceover right now. Anywho, I'm pretty much done with that now, knotting everything up, and we are finally done. Make sure you connect that last track to the frontal. That was my point when she just came in interrupting me. Remove all of your pins. Go ahead and take your take your wig off of the dome head, and then at this point you want to kind of turn it inside out, and then whatever kind of cap you're using, you want to cut off the cap from your frontal. Do not cut the frontal, girl. Just cut the cap off, okay? Just the cap. Be very careful. The clip is going fast, but I took my time. Like, it took a while, so you should be glad it's in fast motion. She played too much. I need to redo this whole voiceover. Anywho, that is it for the wig tutorial. Also, I forgot to cut off the last piece of the track. So yeah, that's the only part from the third bundle that wasn't used. It was 3 bundles. I did have 1 20-inch left, but for my spacing, I didn't have enough for that. If you all want to see the customizing and styling video, definitely let me know. This was just the frontal tutorial, not frontal, this was just the wig tutorial, so it's not really on styling, customizing, curling, co-washing, all of that stuff. That's completely separate. So if you want to see that, definitely let me know. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope that you found something in this video helpful. The hair does curl. You can flat iron it, all of those good things. Flat iron it, curl it, style it up however you would like. Make it lay, make it slay, don't play. Okay, what is she saying? What is she doing? But yeah, shout out to my little sister for wearing this wig for me. Like, it's so good when you have a sister that likes to wear weave and you're like, hey, boom, I need your help with a video right now. So shout out to her. Shout out to her for rocking this hair, okay? Because she's definitely rocking it. Get connected with me on Instagram and Twitter for when I'm not here on YouTube. Also get connected with my little sister. She is like the secondary source for when I'm just MIA. Like, you can check her out and be like, where is this? Nah, I'm kidding, but get connected with her if you would like. I will leave her information down below. Special shout out and thank you to Angel Grace Hair for sending us this hair. My little sister is loving it and I enjoyed making this wig. Like I said, this is like the first frontal wig that I've made, and yeah, she likes it. It looks good. I think I did pretty well. The hair is amazing. Like, it's just so flowy and just like, oh my god. I'm not just saying it. You can look at it. Like, you see it, right? So yeah, questions or comments, be sure to leave all of that down below. And yeah, I thank you all so much for watching this video. All the information about this hair will be down below in the information bar, so definitely check that out if you're interested in this hair and any other relevant videos. All of that, check the information bar down below. And as always, I thank you all so much for watching.